Good evening to all researchers, scientists, professors, and students. On behalf of ICWR, I welcome you all. And today we can able to we feel very happy that we can able to witness the repeated audience for our webinars. And to introduce with ICWR for the new participants, ICWR, that is International Consortium of Water Researchers, is a non-profit consortium, operates with an objective to connect water-based researchers and scientists all over the world. It is promoted and supported by international and national advisory committee members of various research and educational institutions across the globe. ICWR operates with the interest towards enriching knowledge at 4 different stages as water fellows, water experts, young professionals, and student members. You can able to join our team in either of these 4 categories. And ICWR does this through organizing webinar series, training and workshops on water-based modeling and annual virtual conferences. We also further our objective by operating effectively among the water-based research aspirants at all levels. So far, ICWR have organized 5 webinars through international experts like Professor Eric from University of Paris, Professor Ali from University of Sydney, Professor Esther from South Africa, Professor Frederick from Cranfield University, UK, and Professor Shankar Chakma from IICR Bhopal. With this short introduction about ICWR, I would like to introduce Professor Rajesh Banu from Central University of Tamil Nadu, Thiruvarur, for the 6th webinar of ICWR. So to introduce Professor Rajesh Banu sir, he is having around more than 20 years of experience in environmental research. He has published 250 plus research articles, books and book chapters. And his research activities are mainly focused on methane production from lignocellulosic and waste biomass, hydrogen from waste marine algal biomass, biopolymer production, membrane bioreactor, microbial fuel cells based technology. And in a nutshell, his research team have given what are all the areas they are working with in a pictorial representation. It is given for you, it was displayed over in the presentation. He's working with micropollutants, lignocellulosic biomass, and macro systems as well as microsystems and liquid organic substrates. And his research team is a pioneer in anaerobic digestion system all over the world. And he's having more than 4,500 citations with the H-index of 37 and I-10 index of 120. And I feel very happy to introduce him to the community of water researchers. And I would like to invite Dr. Ushani to share a few words about her guide, Professor Rajesh Banu. Dr. Ushani.
Yeah, good evening everyone. Today I am going to introduce an ambitious researcher in the field of environmental engineering and environmental biotechnology. Dr. J. Rajesh Banu, my guide. Sir, I cordially invite you on this dais. So currently he is working as an associate professor, Department of Life Science, Central University, Tamil Nadu. He was a formerly assistant professor in Anna University Regional Center of Tirunelveli. He did his postdoctoral fellow in Sungkwan Kawan University, South Korea, and he is a visiting researcher in East China Normal University, China. He is the author of 180 publications in SCI and SCIE journals with a cumulative impact factor 691.38. His publication has achieved more than 4,000 citations, and he obtained 5 major grants from Government of India. And he has guided 14 PhD students and 70 post-graduation engineering students. He was awarded with the Think of Ecology Award by Hikoshi, Japan in year 2018. His cutting-edge research activities involves sludge reduction, combined wastewater treatment, biological nutritional removal, MBR, bioremediation of pollutant, and renewable energy. Sir, herewith I invite you, sir, on the behalf of ICWR, International Consortium of Water Research. I invite you, sir.
Thank you, Ushani.
Thank you, sir.
Shall I start my presentation?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. Ushani, please tell whether my
Yes,
PPT,
sir. Yes,
you can
sir.
view that.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. It's visible.
So my voice also audible to you.
Yes, sir. Audible and clear, sir.
Okay. Now I will start my presentation.
Okay.
So good morning to one and all. Today I am going to present the role of biotechnology in environmental management. In that particularly, I am going to talk about how this biotechnological technique can solve the problem in energy crisis. Okay. So first we will see why there is an intervention is required in terms of solving energy problem. So we all know that our world is growing fast. As a result of that, see the annual consumption of energy is said to be reached around 778 joules by 2035. Okay, so it is growing in unprecedented way that the available fossil fuel cannot support its production. Okay, as well as these fossil fuels are depleting very fastly and is not a carbon neutral fuel. So what it means is it can cause climate change. That is, carbon dioxide is having the potential to absorb heat. This resulted in climate change. It is a greenhouse gas. So see here, another interesting thing is, in case of the data in India, see, among the shares of different energy resources, okay, the energy that comes out from renewable energy is 21.41%. Okay, so among the all shares of energy, renewable energy account for roughly 21%. Okay, among that, see here, the energy that is comes from biomass is accounts for only 2.47%. Okay, whereas nowadays more research is going on in wind energy, solar energy, and other small hydro project. Okay. So, however, India is agricultural based country. We are having lot of biomass waste. So it is predicted that people working on this field predicted that we can increase this bio-based energy to 5% in near future. That means there are a lot of scopes are available and government is giving a lot of subsidy as well as. Okay. So another interesting see in this graph you can see here is, see the country like Brazil where the total electricity consumption and electricity from renewables. Okay, and the most of the energy comes from renewables. Okay, that means they are establishing their ecosystem. Whereas in case of India, only less amount of energy that comes out from renewables. Like Brazil, we are also agricultural based country, so we can also achieve their target. So work are going on in that type of aspects. So now we should know what is the advantage of biomass based bioenergy. Okay. You know very well that if energy from the waste means, and especially from the biomass means, it will reduce greenhouse gas emission and it increase better air quality. Say for example, in India, especially in the state of Haryana and Punjab, what people will do now after harvesting, they simply burn the left out residues. Okay, this resulted in air pollution. So every year during winter period in Delhi, it is a major problem. Okay, the air pollution is major problem that comes from the burning of agricultural residue from nearby states. Okay, so if we can use that residue for bioenergy production, then we can get good air quality. Another thing is biofuels are biodegradable and less toxic. For example, petrol, if you burn incomplete burning produce many daughter byproduct, many daughter benzene rings. Okay, these are very toxic. Then it also generate regional and rural employment. Say, for example, biogas plant. If biogas plants is established in village means it will generate revenue among regional and rural sectors. Then supporting agricultural and biomass based industries. So in India, we are having lot of agricultural based industries like distillery. Okay. So in case of distillery, what is the problem is their wastewater. Okay, their wastewater is laden with high amount of organics. We estimate organics in terms of COD and BOD. So normally what people do, they go for aerobic treatment and it is an energy intensive process. Whereas if we use that wastewater for anaerobic technology, we can generate good amount of electricity that can support the industry again. Then another thing is less landfill. Okay, if you use biomass effectively for biofuel generation, only less amount of waste will be landfill. It resulted in prevention of many other pollution like landfill cause leachate, which contaminate the groundwater. Okay, and other thing also, there are many other negative aspects associated with landfill, so that can be avoided. Then energy reliability and security. So as in the previous slide we saw that due to rapid industrialization, energy demand also increasing, but we are having very less amount of fossil fuels. So if we go for alternative fuels like biomass bioenergy, we can reduce the reliability on these type of fossil fuels. So in such a way that the country's security will be maintained, because we don't have enough amount of oil reserve. We depends on others for biofuel production. Now we are going to see the classification of biomass. So based on the calorific value, the biomass is classified into 3 types: high, medium, low potential. Okay, these are all based on their calorific value, which can be estimated using palm calorimeter. Okay, high potential waste biomass means it is having very high calorific value and it is in the range of 24 to 40 megajoules per kg of waste. Okay, so if you use these kind of waste for biofuel production like methane, hydrogen, biodiesel, the revenue can be generated because it is having good amount of calorific value. Example, microbial biomass waste, algal biomass, food waste, and biomedical waste. Then the second one is medium potential waste biomass. Here the calorific value is little lower than this one, and generally it is in the range of 19 to 22 megajoules per kg. Examples include agricultural residues and forest residues. These are all called lignocellulosic waste. Okay, because it contains lignin. Then low potential waste biomass, having low calorific value and it is in the range of 2.4 to 3 megajoule per kg, and most of the manures comes out from this waste, animal waste. Okay, but it contains good amount of nutrient. We can convert it into the form of fertilizers, biofertilizers that can be used. So now we will see few biomass waste. Okay, in that category, first we are going to see the sludge from the wastewater treatment plant. Okay, this photograph is taken in Thiruvananthapuram wastewater treatment plant. This is a activated treatment plant system. Okay, activated means the microorganisms are activated in the presence of oxygen. See here the surface aerator which aerate the mixed liquor. As a result, the organism will grow very fast here and consume the substrate. Okay, while consuming the substrate, okay, the microorganism will multiply. Okay, that comes in the form of sludge. Okay, the aeration tank where the oxidation of organic matter is happens. This is the bacteria plus wastewater. Okay, when it enters into the clarifier, in clarifier, what it will happen? Solid liquid separation happens. The treated wastewater will be separated in clarifier and it is sent out, whereas the sludge, that is the biomass, which is having more specific gravity, which settle at the bottom of the clarifier. And in order to maintain biomass balance, a part of the biomass will be recycled back. Okay, and a part should be removed. Okay, otherwise the population become very high and it interfere the performance of the clarifier. Okay, so here Q is the flow rate, S naught is the initial substrate, and X, that is the biomass initially, is very little. Okay, so the sludge, that is a residual sludge. This is called sludge. It is a residual semi-solids left after the treatment process in a wastewater treatment plant. So if they dispose it in a conventional way, the problem includes it produces offensive smell, and it is having high organic content, and it is bulky in nature. Okay, so the main problem of this sludge disposal is it demands nearly 20 to 60% of total operational cost. Okay, say for example, wastewater treatment is, say for example, if 100 rupee is the cost of the wastewater treatment, means nearly 60% goes for the management of sludge. Okay, instead of that, we can use this sludge to produce energy that can substitute the energy requirement for aeration, because aeration demand huge amount of electricity energy. Okay, we can effectively use the sludge for bioenergy production, and we can compensate the energy loss that occurs during aeration process. So before we will see in detail about how and by which method the sludge is hydrolyzed, we should know the basic structure of the sludge flux. Sludge flux itself, it's meaning a group. Okay, the microorganisms in wastewater, it won't occur singly. Okay, see here, a flock means it is a consortium of microorganisms which are intertwined by many other things. Okay, like see here, it is having filamentous organisms, it is having bacteria, and it is having protozoa, and it is having organic and inorganic material. Okay, they are intertwined by each other by means of EPS. Okay, that is extra polymeric substances. Okay, which are nothing but protein, carbohydrate, nucleic acid, humic substances, and cations. Okay, these EPS are of two types: loosely bound and tightly bound. Okay, so this EPS only responsible for making the flock structure together. If we remove EPS, we can easily remove the bacteria inside the flux. So our team main research aim is to remove EPS and the bacteria that comes out. Then we target the bacteria and we generate energy. Okay, so this is the microscopical view of a flock. This is the enlarged view of the flock. You can see the constituents. It is a graphical representation of the flock. Okay. Next one is food waste. We also concentrate on food waste. Okay, see the potential of food waste generation around the country. So food is the mandatory one that everyone require. Okay, and in olden days we live simple life. So we don't waste that much amount of food. But nowadays we are wasting a lot of food. And in this thing, you can see how these things are distributed, the production, handling, and storage. Okay. The detail of that, you can find these things in our edited book, how and how the food waste are generated and how much quantity that are frequently wasted. Okay. The interesting point is it is having highly biodegradable organic matter and it is available in hydrolyzable form. Okay, most of the food waste, it is readily undergo biodegradation. Okay, and it is having good amount of protein and 5 to 20%. Carbohydrate is also very high, 30 to 60%, and lipids 15 to 40%. If the lipid is there, means it resists to undergo hydrolysis. Okay, because of the reason, when you see in the hotel industry, no, they put grease trap. Okay, say after cleaning and everything, they put grease trap. Okay, if the lipid is there and if it enters into the treatment system, it will hamper the treatment process. And challenging, and the most challenging part in managing food waste is the waste that comes from grease trap. It contains high amount of lipids. Okay, this is the this picture shows its characteristics. It is having protein, high amount of organic matter, carbohydrate, and a portion of lipid. If grease trap is there, we can reduce the amount of lipid. Okay, anyhow, some part of the lipid will enter into the treatment system. Okay, another important thing is it is having high moisture. If moisture is there, it enhances the degradation process. So another thing is it is having high biodegradable potential. So we can generate good amount of fuels also. Then it is having small fraction of lignin. Here also it contains lignin that hampers hydrolysis. Another important residue is agricultural residues. We call it as lignocellulosic residue. Okay, in case of developing and agricultural based country like India, see we are using mainly these crops. Okay, raising rice, wheat, and corn. Okay, so normally after harvesting, we leave this residue as such, and simply we will burn. Okay, so this resulted in good amount of air pollution. Okay, nowadays if we manage this waste scientifically, we can generate enough amount of energy. Okay, so the agricultural residues are naturally available lignocellulosic biomass. It contains high amount of carbon, and few example it is given here. Okay, see the potential that India can generate. In India, it is estimated that India can generate 500 million tons of lignocellulosic waste every year. Okay, so it can serve as a potential substrate for bioenergy production. Okay, nowadays new concept is developed called the biorefinery. Biorefinery means you know very well about petroleum fractionation. Okay, from the crude oil, the petroleum is fractionated and we can get byproduct one by one. Say for example, initial like petrol, diesel, tar, like that. Okay, when you fractionally distillate like that, when you do biorefinery of lignocellulosic product, you can get variety of value-added chemicals as well as biofuels. See here, fine chemicals we can produce, methane we can produce, single cell protein we can produce, and microbial polysaccharides and alcohols and xylitol, furfural. These are all value-added chemicals we can produce during biorefinery of lignocellulosic biomass. Before we go in detail about these kind of hydrolysis of lignocellulosic residue, we should know the structure of agricultural based residues. Okay, consider this as a rice grab. Okay, it is a lignocellulosic biomass. Okay, see here it is structure. It is having three major components: cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. Okay, the lignin is in pink color. Okay. So the lignin, what it do, no, it give structural strength to the plant, and lignin twists the cellulose and hemicellulose, and this is the compound that inhibit the biofuel generation. Okay. See, this is the plant structure, and when you magnify, you can get cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. Okay. In case of cellulose and hemicellulose, it can easily hydrolyzable, whereas lignin very difficult to hydrolyzable. And see here, this is the lignocellulosic biomass, and it is having cellulose and hemicellulose which are intertwined by lignin. If you subject this material as such for fermentation, the yield will be very less. For that, to increase the yield, people pre-treat the lignocellulosic material and separate lignin. Okay. Then they add different enzymes, cellulase and hemicellulase, and as a result, the sugars will be produced. When it undergo fermentation, or when we go for distillation and evaporation, we can get bioethanol as well as methane and other useful biofuels. Okay. The main important thing is, in case of lignocellulosic biomass, the lignin is a inhibitory compound we should remove. Okay. Nowadays we can also get value added product from lignin. In our laboratory, we are aiming to produce bioplastic from using lignin as a substrate. Then another important biomass is called microalgal biomass. This is called third generation biofuels. Okay, among the various biomass we saw, okay, the algal is having greater potential of energy because it is a autotrophic organisms. It is having high productivity. Okay, this one is Chlorella vulgaris, which is very commonly used in biofuel production. Then this one is Cenidesmus. This is called raceaway pond. Okay, this type of ponds nowadays used to cultivate algae. We can use wastewater as a substrate here, and simultaneously we treat the wastewater as well as we can harvest good amount of algal biomass. See here, algal biomass is grown in photobioreactor. After that, it is harvested. Okay, the harvested microalgae can be used for the production of biodiesel. Biodiesel means inside the chlorella cell, it is capable of accumulating lipid. Okay, so if you remove the lipid, we can produce biodiesel. Okay, if you go for saccharification, we can produce bioethanol. And the left-out residue, if you subject, we can produce biogas. The same thing, we can also get value-added products from algal biomass, biofertilizer. From the left-out material, we can produce biofertilizer. And some of the algae can accumulate these biopolymers inside that can be harvested, and feed supplement and many chemicals also we can harvest. Okay, so mainly from the algae we can harvest biofuels and value added products. Okay, so once everything is over, okay, we can use the residual microalgal biomass along with other kind of waste and subject to anaerobic digestion. See here, you can produce biogas. Okay, the digest, okay, that is a liquid fraction contain good amount of inorganic nutrient that can be supplied back into photobioreactor as a substrate for algal growth. Okay. So in the previous slides, we saw that by using various biomass, we can produce many types of biofuel like hydrogen, biodiesel, and methane. But in this session, we are going to see about methane only. Okay, that is how to produce methane from the biomass. So before we go in detail, we should know the process. Okay, the microbiological process behind the biogas generation. Okay, it is a generally it is a 3 steps. Some people make it as 4 steps. Okay, generally it is hydrolysis and acetogenesis and methanogenesis. This aceto and aceto can be grouped together to form a single process called acetogenesis. Okay, so in the first step, what will happen? The water insoluble organic molecule is getting converted into water soluble organic molecules. Okay, see here, the complex organic molecules like carbohydrate, protein, fats are getting converted into water soluble sugar, amino acid, and fatty acids. This is called a hydrolysis, and it is the rate limiting step of biofuel generation. You can take either if it is a hydrogen or if it is a biodiesel or if it is any fermentation process, the hydrolysis is the rate limiting step. Okay, the second process is called acetogenesis and acetogenesis, where both the process aims to produce acetic acids. Okay, it is a volatile fatty acids, and this will be used as a substrate by methanogenic organisms, and they produce methane from acetic acid. See here, the molecular formula of acetic acid is CH3COOH. When it combines, it produces CH4 plus CO2. Okay. In the engineering point of view, what is the main important thing is we have to maintain a balance between acetogenesis and methanogenesis. Say for example, if 6 molecule of acetic acid is produced in anaerobic reactor, means that 6 should be consumed immediately, or the production of acetic acid and utilization of acetic acid should happen simultaneously. Otherwise, what will happen? The acetic acid will build up inside the anaerobic reactor. This resulted in pH drop inside the reactor. So we all know that the biological process happens effectively at neutral pH only. Okay, if the pH goes below, means then the process get affected, methanogenesis won't occur properly, and the phenomena is called souring of anaerobic digestion. So anaerobic digestion is the most fundamental process for solid reduction in sludge treatment and biogas production. Okay, hydrolysis is the rate limiting step, and liquefaction is the method to enhance the hydrolysis. And if we want to obtain good amount of biofuel, means we need to break the biomass. So in the previous slides, we saw that in case of sludge, the sludge means it is a semi-solid content that contain good amount of biological organisms. Okay, so consider this as a intact organisms. If it undergo fermentation, means it won't produce good amount of biofuel, because the cell wall is very intact, so it resists the fermentation. So in liquefaction, what we do know, we will break the cell wall of this intact bacteria. So when the cell wall is ruptured, we can easily ferment the substrate. Okay, because all the soluble organic content will be there only inside the bacteria. Their outer covering is generally resist to undergo biodegradation. So our aim is to break the cell wall of the biomass. So once it is broken, we can get better hydrolysis. That means we can reduce retention time inside the reactor, as well as we can increase the biogas production. So the liquefaction in real scale is carried out by variety of methods: chemical methods, physical method, mechanical method, and biological method. Among that, more popular will be combination of the method. Okay, thermal and chemical, they combine. Okay, thermochemical is more prominent. Okay, it is used in such magnitude. Okay, so among the various methods, our interest is biological method. Even though it is a slow process, the main advantage of this process is it is a cost-effective process. Whereas in this case, you need to spend a lot of energy. Say, for example, microwave means it demands a lot of energy. Okay, it requires a lot of energy to break the cell wall of the organics. In case of mechanical, the sonification and disperser are the novel technology, but both of them consume good amount of energy. Okay, so if you spend energy to break the cell wall means, then there will be a revenue loss at the final energy calculation thing. Okay, so however, the biological process, even though it is very slower, the energy input demand for this process is very less, so we can get energetically positive biofuel generation. So as a result of this liquefaction method, it enhances solubilization and it produces more biofuels. So by now we in this today's session we are concentrate more on biological liquefaction, and biological liquefaction is carried out by commercial enzymes. Commercial enzymes nowadays not entertained because it is very costly. So we in our lab we target to isolate the enzyme secreting bacteria. So some of the bacteria can capable of secreting enzyme like protease, amylase, okay, and lipase. Okay, these enzymes are exogenous in nature or extracellular in nature. If you put the substrate along with the bacteria, means that the bacteria secrete enzyme and it attack the organics or biomass and cleave the cells. Okay, then another thing is biosurfactant secreting strains also there. Okay, so the advantage of biological liquefaction is it demands less energy. That is the very important desirable thing for biofuel production, and no chemical contamination. Then another thing is ease of operation and maintenance. Then no drastic alteration in substrate environment, and cost effective process and work at mild operating condition. Whereas if you go for thermochemical method, okay, it requires a harsh environmental condition. Okay, then only the cell get broken. Okay, so when you apply harsh environmental conditions to biomass, it produce recalcitrant compound. Okay, in case of biological pretreatment, the stress to the biomass will be very less. As a result, it produces minimum recalcitrant product. So during fermentation, more amount of biofuel will be generated. So as far as in our lab, we worked on following enzyme secreting bacteria, that we isolated protease secreting bacteria in skimmed milk agar, and amylase in starch agar, and cellulase in carboxymethyl cellulose agar, and biosurfactant producing bacteria using mannitol salt agar. And there are numerous procedure and tedious work of my students began this, and lysozyme secreting bacteria. Okay, and now in our lab, in my lab, active delignifying bacteria isolation is happening, and this will be done in mineral salt agar media, where instead of carbon source we give lignin as a carbon, and from that we isolated that bacteria. So the aim of the liquefaction method is to enhance the hydrolysis. Okay, but it is unimaginable to obtain 100% liquefaction. So we should put a marker for that. Okay, However, if you aim to increase solubilization, then your total biofuel production experiment will fail, because 100% liquefaction, that doesn't mean that 100% biodegradability. Okay, then higher liquefaction. So if you want to achieve higher liquefaction, means you have to apply too much amount of energy that resulted in a total collapse of the process. Hence, it is very essential to optimize the pre-treatment method, and this is based on the substrate biodegradability. See here in this diagram, you can clearly see. Okay, in this diagram, you can clearly see. See here, this is the control, means the substrate taken as such. Okay, then we increase the liquefaction index. Okay, from 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50. Okay, here the mean value is in the central point. Okay, from that the value radiates. Okay, from that it is very clearly evident that increase in liquefaction increases biodegradability up to 25% of the liquefaction. Okay, whereas when you increase liquefaction over 30%, see here, there is no significant increase in the biodegradability. So the biodegradability act as an indicator for the extent of the liquefaction. Okay, based on our experience, we can found out that 30% is optimum for solubilizing the biomass. So to evaluate the liquefaction, there is a simple test. We call it as BMP test, biochemical methane potential. Okay, where the substrate and inoculum will be taken inside the 250 ml bottle. Sorry. See here, the inoculum comes from the rumen content of cow. Okay, as soon as the cow is slaughtered, we take the inoculum to the lab and we sieve it and we store it in a plastic can. We purge nitrogen and we use that thing as a inoculum. Then we take 300 ml of experimental flask. We take nearly 200 ml of substrate and 100 ml of inoculum in that, and it is having a modified cap, and the modified cap is having a septum. Okay, that septum and a cap, and there is a provision in the cap where we can insert a needle here. Okay, then see here in this case, okay, once substrate and inoculum is there, the headspace should be removed. Okay, because it consists of some amount of oxygen. That will be done by purging nitrogen into the flask. Okay, after that it is sealed and covered with aluminum foil. Okay, aluminum foil here, and once the procedure is over, it is incubated. Okay, it is sealed and it is incubated in a room temperature. We can, because in India we can get sufficient temperature, we can incubate a room temperature, and during the period of time we measure the biogas generation. And see here the difference here. So there are two types of experimental flask: control and pre-treated. Pre-treated means hydrolyzed. Okay, so this is the flask that contain the biomass plus inoculum, and we inserted a needle here. So after a sufficient period of time, okay, the biogas start produced inside the flask, and when the pressure goes up, it will push the piston gear. And compared to these two, see here in the experimental setup, more amount of biogas is produced. That is because of effective hydrolysis. So now we are going to see about biological liquefaction of microalgal biomass, a case study. Okay, this microalgal biomass we harvested from a raceway pond in Tirunelveli. Okay, and we treated this algae with three different types of bacteria. Sorry, two different types of bacteria: proteolytic bacteria and cellulolytic bacteria. Okay, because the cell wall of this microalgae contains cellulase and hemicellulase that can be hydrolyzed using the enzyme secreting bacteria, the proteolytic and cellulolytic bacteria. Okay, when we hydrolyzed, the intracellular compound comes out. We subjected to BMP test. See here, as a result, we got energy analysis. When compared to control, proteolytic produced good amount. Then cellulolytic further there is an increase in energy ratio. However, a very good amount of energy ratio is produced when we combine proteolytic and cellulolytic. Okay. In case of energy analysis, if energy ratio is near to 1, means that process is a successful process. So in our case, we get energy ratio of 1 with the combination of the two bacteria. So during hydrolysis, we got the result like this. Okay, see the control which yielded very less amount of dissolved organics release. Whereas when see here, the combination of cellulase and combination of these two bacteria, okay, proteolytic and cellulolytic bacteria yielded very good amount of hydrolyzable component. Okay, likewise, when we do the biodegradability analysis in MATLAB, you can see in case of the combined biological treatment, we can get good biodegradability. Okay, this is about energy and cost analysis, and this is what we miss. Okay, this is very important aspect. Okay, whenever you do experiment, we should do cost analysis. Okay, some of the experiment shows promising result, but if it fails in cost analysis, then especially in case of environmental problem, if it fails in cost analysis, then the entire experiment is go in waste. Okay, so we do a tedious cost analysis, and see here, the interesting aspect of our study is we get a positive energy ratio. As a result, this thing can be scalable. Okay, so we can scale this process for pilot level and to industrial level also. So now we are going to see in the real scale what are all the digester which are used to convert these organics into methane. Okay, there are, since time is very less, I go fast. Okay, there are two types of anaerobic digesters. There are different types of there. In batch anaerobic digester, there are two types: single batch and array batch. Single means only one reactor. Array means there are more than one, two or many other. Okay. See, this is a single batch digester. Batch means, okay, the feeding will be done at only one times. Okay. Here, HRT and SRT is same. Okay. That means once you load out the substrate inside the reactor, only at the end point only we will take out the substrate. Okay. This is the batch anaerobic digester. It is having a tight door. So during the experiment, what they will do, they dump the waste biomass inside, and once they dump, they close the door. Okay, so along with this inoculum, they will add waste biomass. Okay, these any biological activity will be accelerated only in the presence of humid conditions. Okay, initially it will be supplied via water storage tank, continuously pour water. As a result, a good amount of moisture will be maintained. Okay, then the anaerobic bacteria start to proliferate inside that. Then methane will be generated, and the methane will be harvested and sent back into CHP unit, combined heat power generation unit, where methane is getting converted in the terms of heat or electricity, and the heat generated will be used to maintain temperature inside the reactor. Okay, this will be done in a Western country where temperature is generally less than 20 degree. Okay, and during the process, leachate also generated, and that will be taken back and recirculated back into the system to enhance the anaerobic digestion. That is called single stage batch process. Then array means, see here there are two types of reactor. The main purpose of array is it phase separated hydrolysis and methanogenesis. We know that hydrolysis is the rate limiting process. Okay, so if we separate it, we can enhance methanogenesis also. Okay, so this is a phase separated process. Then another important kind of reactor is plug flow reactor. Okay, plug flow reactor. Plug flow reactor means because of its characteristic shape, it is called plug flow reactor. That is, the length and width ratio of typical plug flow reactor is 5:1. The length is 5 and the width is 1. Okay. Normally, plug flow reactor will not be provided with internal agitation. Since the size is like this, when you feed, there is a continuous movement of substrate or continuous agitation of substrate will happen inside the reactor. So no external agitation is required. Okay, the important thing is you can feed this reactor with total solid contents of 12 to 13%, and the optimum retention time is 15 to 20%. And here, fresh biomass inoculated to the reactor drives the movement of the substrate. Okay, since the width to length ratio is like this, when you feed it, the substrate moves slowly here. Okay, so once it comes out, filter press will be there, effluent comes out, and it can be recirculated back, and the biomass cake can be utilized as a biofertilizers. Okay, then this is a CSTR reactor that is very commonly used throughout the world. Okay, and most of the methanogenic reactors are CSTR reactor. Okay, it can be work scalable up to 100 meter cube size, and retention is 10 to 20 days. It can treat slurries up to 12% of TS. And most importantly, it is having stirrer that maintain the thing in a homogeneous way. Okay, the disadvantage of this process include investment. It requires huge investment, and biomass loss could be a problem because it is a continuously stirred reactor. When effluent goes out, along with effluent, the biomass, inoculum also will be lost. Okay, so to prevent that, people require or put a clarifier that, and the clarified waste thing will be removed, and a part of the biomass can be recycled back. But that also is not a good suggestion for this kind. So the problem is biomass loss is a problem here. Okay, so with that, the biofuel in terms of methane is over. I also included value-added component production along with biofuel generation. That is the biorefinery, a new concept is developed. This is the bioplastic cells. Okay, the normal cells, okay, they won't accumulate polyhydroxy alkalinate granules. When stress is given, like low oxygen and phosphate, it tends to accumulate polyhydroxy alkylamide inside the granules. If we can extract these granules, we can produce bioplastics. Okay, at present we are having a big project that is running on in our lab with involvement of this many peoples around the world and our collaborators. Okay, this is the project supported by DPT, and that is the biorefinery project, where along with biofuel we are generating bioplastic. Okay. So at the outcome of the project, we are going to install a pilot plant structure in Central University of Tamil Nadu. Okay, and see here, this is the biomass that is delignified, and delignified biomass will be sent back into the bacterial pretreatment tank for liquefaction. Once it is liquefied, it will be sent into a biohydrogen tank. Then hydrogen will be produced. Okay. Here, you know very well that in any fermenter, pH and temperature should be maintained neutral. So it is automated here. And if any pH drop or thing is happen, then automatically this thing will pump out. Okay. Once hydrogen production is over, it will be sent into biomethane tank, where anaerobic digestion will happen and methane will be produced. Okay, the retention time of the hydrogen production tank is generally very less when compared to the methane tank. Okay, this is the schematic of that project. Okay, we use lignocellulosic biomass. Since lignin is a recalcitrant substrate, we phase separate that thing. That is, we separate lignin from cellulose biomass, and the lignin we use it for the production of bioplastic, and the cellulose fraction we use it for the production of three important components: hydrogen, methane, and VFA, and biofertilizers. Okay, so totally in our project, from a single substrate, we are going to produce 5 components: bioplastic, hydrogen, methane, VFA, and biofertilizers. Okay. At present, in our lab, we are extracting the polyhydroxy alkylamide accumulating bacteria in our lab. It is over now, and next stage we are planning to install the pilot plant. Okay, this is our team, and I have finished my lecture within the time interval. If any question is there, please ask.
Thank you, Professor Rajesh sir, for giving the detailed information on the projects you are carrying out. And the session was really wonderful. That it started from the scratch and you extended up to the detailed level and advanced stages of research. And thank you so much for your time, sir. And there are certain questions from the participants. And one participant has asked from Janita. I am also interested in lignin separation from plants for my project and to produce biofertilizer or biogas. Which one will be feasible for my project? Whether can I go with biofertilizer or biogas?
If you go for biogas, okay, the end product you can use it for biofertilizers. So both can be simultaneously be done, but we can limit up to biogas because other analysis are there to whether the carbon nitrogen ratio or come within the level. So you can limit to anaerobic digestion. Rest you can directly use it as a biofertilizer.
Okay, sir, and can you give some ideologies regarding the algal bloom conversions? How to go with the algal blooms in native ponds or lakes like that? Can you give your experience, share your experience on that?
Yeah, in two ways we can tackle. First is prevention. Okay, say for example, you know very well that algal bloom is mainly due to nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay, if these nutrient-rich wastewater enters into the water body, it will induce algal bloom. So nowadays, a variety of treatment methods are there. More common is A2O reactor. We call it as anoxic, oxic reactor. Okay, that is used for removal of nitrogen. AO reactor. A2O means anaerobic, anoxic, oxic reactor. If you use those two techniques here, we can reduce nitrogen and phosphorus load to the water bodies. The second thing is, if algal is bloomed, we can harvest, we can use it for biofuel production.
Biofuel production. Okay. And is there any ideas to degrade the plastic? Or
Yeah, it is out of scope of my project. What we are doing is we are our aim is to create biodegradable plastic instead of the plastic. Okay, but nowadays I'm not well versed in that area. But nowadays there are a lot of literature that plastics can be degraded by specialized group of organism. But I don't have expertise in that.
yeah. And sir, can you share some of your experience on degrading specific industrial waste, like textile industrial waste or leather industrial waste? Whether have you experienced any differences in operation?
Yeah, there are, if you take waste, there are two types: liquid and solid waste. The solid waste are easily manageable. It may be so there are some waste like tannery waste. It is having chromium. Okay, that resists biological thing to work out. But that waste also, if we can increase retention time, we can achieve some amount of degradation. But the problem is the tackling of solid waste. Okay, that is very, very difficult. We are having experience on paper mill sludge and mainly domestic wastewater sludge from domestic wastewater treatment plant. That can be manageable with anaerobic digestion.
Okay. And how to degrade electronic waste? As have you used those waste as a material or substrate for your biogas conversion?
Electronic waste, again, it is very difficult.
Since metals will be present,
yes,
no?
Mainly they recover. The electronic waste contain good amount of valuable product. Okay, if you can search in YouTube, you can. There are a lot in Delhi area. People, okay, the electronics waste from Europe and India through black market, it comes to Delhi. Okay, where the people extract gold. There are gold lining in the e-waste. People extract that waste, but at the cost of air pollution. Okay, extraction is very tedious process in case of electronic waste, but it yield very good amount of revenue at the cost of environment. But it cannot be done by biological organisms.
And sir, do you have any experience on a particular algae, Botryococcus brownie? If yes, can you please share some information with us? Specific algae.
Yes, we work on Chlorella vulgaris and Semidesmus species. That's all. We limit our research on these two because both that can accumulate good amount of lipids.
And what will be the approximate cost of the whole project? That biorefinery, how much will be the approximate cost? That's what a question from a participant.
A pilot plant means it is around 55 lakhs. The total cost of the project is around 1.2 lakhs. In that, for pilot plant, we invested around 50 lakhs.
Okay. And I think last question. And even if we have these technologies, still we are struggling to degrade the waste. Can you highlight the strategies for the government to follow, or will you be having any ideas to suggest to the government in that way?
Yes, as I said in my first slide, that among the energy resources, India is having good potential. Say for the first slide, we can see when we consider the scenario, two scenario, Brazil and India. Okay, in case of Brazil, nearly equal amount of energy is generated from renewable resources, whereas we are lagging. Okay. So the bioenergy part, we experts believe that can be increased up to 5%. And at present, this government gives more importance to solar energy. Okay, there are good scope in solar energy and bioenergy. So soon, I think India can match energy production from renewables. In case of bioenergy, our hydrolysis, we are having different techniques for improving hydrolytic potential. So that we can recommend to government.
Okay. Sir, and last question from my side. And during the anaerobic digestion part, whether how far you are tackling the emerging micropollutants such as antibiotics or PFAS, like that. Nowadays, these micropollutants are emerging in a large way. So whether that will be affecting our process, if so, how you are managing that? Whether you will be having any pre-treatment procedures for that, or you will be directly handing over to the hands of microorganisms?
In case of micropollutant means it is mainly endocrine disturbing chemicals, antibiotics and other thing. Okay, generally it is there in wastewater stream. Only few things will be getting inside the biomass, especially agricultural residue. It won't contain micropollutant. Whereas the question is very good in case of sludge from wastewater treatment plant. Okay, that contain good amount of micropollutant. So after the anaerobic digestion is over, okay, the digestate can be used for algal cultivation. Okay. So this algae can, there are number of literature that algae can degrade the micropollutant level in the digestate of anaerobic digester. So if we incorporated these things, then we can manage the micropollutant.
Okay. Thank you so much for your session, that you have addressed all the questions. And we have also a last few. So if you are free, can you answer 2 more questions, sir?
Yes.
Give some possible manufacturing solutions for low-cost bioplastics to reach common man.
Yeah. At present, it is in India. It is in research level, whereas in developed country nowadays they are in pilot scale level. So I think within our next 10 years, it will be come into the market, like the MBR technique, membrane biological reactor, which is in some 20 years back, they say it is very costly. Nowadays, it is very common. Okay, so within 10 years, it can be affordable, these bioplastics.
After production of biogas or bio oil or biodiesel, shall we produce bioplastic production?
Yes, that is the beauty of the biorefineries. If you calculate everything, if you plan meticulously, like petrol fractionation, we can get a number of products. See here, this is the lignocellulosic biomass. We can simultaneously collect value-added products. See here, we phase separated. In case of lignin, we separated. From the lignin, we used the lignin as a substrate and produced bioplastic here. The cellulose is used for the substrate for the production of hydrogen, methane, and fertilizers. Okay, so it is possible. The thing is, we have to arrive at, or plan it carefully, our experiment carefully. And these things are industrialized also. It's not new. They are industrialized.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. And really, this was a wonder. In the past 6 to 7 webinars, this was a really wonderful, because you have started with the scratch. Because when we are discussing with Ushani, we were a little bit thinking about whether it will be matching with the theme of the consortium, whether it will be oriented towards water-based research. But you started from the scratch and you extended up to the application point of view. So really, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Okay. One more thing I want to give is, in case of water and wastewater treatment, nowadays, treating water is not a major problem. Tackling the sludge that is generated from the wastewater treatment plant is a problem. Because initially we worked on wastewater only. Okay, later, due to the problem of sludge, we are concentrating our research towards sludge. Then these things are going on. Okay, so the sludge and wastewater is inseparable, both are the same.
Yes.
And I also want to thank the organizer for giving me a chance to spread the knowledge among the communities.